Oh, well, hello there. Yes, Wily is here yet again, and this time in the flesh. Who would have thought? However, I'm here to actually deliver some very important news. Now, as you all know, Nintendo recently released something new, and it's kind of a big deal, because it's Breath of the Wild's new trailer. Woo! But the trailer is filled with dark symbols, evil ganondorfs, and even floating islands. And Link's arm even gets eaten up by Malice, and Zelda falls down some hole. So clearly there's a lot going on in that trailer. We all saw that. And after looking at the trailer, I started thinking about something. We see a completely different looking Link. He clearly doesn't look like the one we saw in the very first game. So, could it be that he is the old hero from 10,000 years ago? You know, the one from the tapestry and everything? Well, maybe? So, another thing I started thinking about is, will we see a new Zelda in Breath of the Wild 2? If we see a new Link, then there's a good chance that we'll see a new Zelda as well. So, will we see a new Zelda? The one from 10,000 years ago? The one that we also see on the tapestry? Well, maybe. And you know what? Today we will take a look at it. So, let's go! Now to start off, we have to look at the trailer. That's obviously one of the most important things to look at after all. Now, what we see in the trailer is that Ganondorf most likely gets unleashed, because we see like a flash of him doing roar, and we also see that Link's arm gets eaten, so that probably has something to do with that as well, and we can see that Zelda falls into the Grand Canyon, sort of. Clearly, things aren't going that well. Link loses his arm, evil escapes once again, Zelda gets stuck, I guess. So, things aren't going great. And then we see a new version of Hyrule with floating islands everywhere. In a lot of ways, it looks more like Skyward Sword than a Breath of the Wild game. And at that point in the trailer, we see a different looking Link flying through the air, running amongst the islands and even slipping through it like a worm through sand. And it could very well be that this is the Link from 10,000 years ago. So, will we see a Zelda equivalent of that? Well, maybe. Now let me explain. In the Breath of the Wild universe, there's one important document that mentions some sort of prophecy. The Ancient Tapestry that we see when we go to Impa in Kakariko Village. This is some sort of scroll that was made by the Sheikah that depicts the era of prosperity, which was roughly 10,000 years ago, and during that time there was a lot going on. And on the tapestry, it's depicted in 3 segments. The top section depicts the great prosperity that the kingdom once had. Hyrule Castle can even be seen at the top of the section, with 2 Sheikah towers around it that are constantly looking out for Ganon's presence. And we can also see the ancient Sheikah with their Sheikah technology, and the king with all his soldiers and worshippers and everything basically. But then when we move to the center of it all, we get to see something very interesting. The original battle with Calamity Ganon from 10,000 years ago. Here we can see the princess with the blood of the goddess on the left, Calamity Ganon in the middle of it all, the hero with the sacred sword on the right, and then a million guardians. With a couple of divine beasts on the side, you know. And all of them were working together in order to seal Calamity Ganon away for as long as they could. And then at the bottom portion of the tapestry, we can see the events after the great battle. So Calamity Ganon is sealed away, and the people of Hyrule are absolutely scared to death by the Sheikah tribe's insane power. I mean, look at these robots! They're huge! And they can shoot freaking lasers! Even I can't do that. And I'm a YouTuber. You would expect I could do more than just this. And so, because of their insane technological advancements, they had to abandon it because everyone was scared. And because of that, a part of them became evil and worked together with Calamity Ganon, and another half just went back to the good old days and stayed in the Kingdom of Hyrule. However, the thing we care about the most is seen in the very middle of it all. The ancient threat, the hero, and the princess. Will we see this kind of thing return? Link already looks like the old version after all, so I think there is a decent chance that will happen. So, will there be a new Zelda? Well, in my opinion, it all depends on what happens in the trailer exactly. Because as we can see, Zelda falls into some sort of gigantic pit or canyon. So did she die down there, which would be a very bad scenario in the game? Or is she still alive but stuck? Or is she wounded? We don't really know, but this stuff is crucial. If she actually died, then this game will certainly be one of the darkest in the entire franchise. In a lot of ways, it would become comparable to the end of Ocarina of Time. At the end of that game, we actually see a version of Hyrule Castle that's also floating in the air, just like the one in the trailer, and it looks quite demonic. And as you can imagine, everybody living around that castle kind of died. So that's one thing we could certainly see again. If you just compare the floating castle from Ocarina of Time to the one from the trailer, then you can already see that they're pretty similar. But if that happens, we don't really get a new Zelda. Or we need to do some time travel shenanigans, which is also an option if you look at the trailer, because there's like a drop going in reverse and all kinds of stuff. So time travel is all over that trailer, so that's also an option. But this isn't our only option. She could also be stuck down there. For example, trapped in a cave or something like that. If that's the case, then a playable Zelda certainly becomes possible, even though the developer said it wouldn't happen. But it could also be that we end up saving her instead of actually playing as Zelda. Now if that happens, then we might actually see a new Zelda, because she has to survive down there. So her look would certainly be different, and her personality would also probably change. Stuff like that certainly does something to a human. Now, another option we have is full-on time travel. If you look at the trailer, then you can see that there's time travel all over it. Bokoblins with bigger horns, which suggests that they grew, which took time. A drop of water going in reverse, which also suggests winding back time. New Sheikah Slate powers, which reverse time temporarily or like short bits of it. So that already tells us enough. Time travel could very well play a role in this game, and maybe even a big one. So maybe if we go back in time, we could see the original princess and hero from 10,000 years ago. And that way we would see a different version of Zelda. We all know that Nintendo loves to use time travel, even though it doesn't always work out great for their stories. A good example is Ocarina of Time. That game has a lot of time travel, which leads to a lot of splits. But that isn't even the only Zelda game that uses time travel. You also have Majora's Mask, which is on a constant 3-day loop. So maybe we will actually see time travel, and then we'll certainly see a new Zelda. However, there's one other option left. Let's say she drops down into that hole or canyon. I don't really know what you want to call it, but let's say she falls down and she gets wounded. At that point, Link comes around and saves her, but she needs medical attention of some kind. Well, the last time that happened in the game was with Link, and he got put in a Shrine of Resurrection, which took 100 years to finally bring him back. So maybe this time, Zelda will get revived instead of Link, because of her terrible accident. Maybe she even ends up in a different Shrine of Resurrection, one made by the Zonais, and she ends up with a similar arm that Link has. It could certainly happen, and that would also explain why the Bokoblins have longer horns now. While we were waiting for Zelda to be revived, the Bokoblins became older. I mean, in my opinion, that makes sense at least. But one thing is certain. I bet Breath of the Wild 2 will give us a lot of surprising new stuff. Thanks for watching, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this video. Be sure to check out my other videos on the channel, and please tell me in the comments down below what you think of this new style of video. It's kind of a hybrid between the PO Box videos that I always do and the normal videos I do on the channel. This is more like personality stuff. So let me know what you think about it. Is it good? Is it bad? Do you want the old stuff? Is this better? Let me know.